This is the voice of the New York Football Giants, Bob Papa, and you are listening to the best throughout Europe, the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast, proudly in association, as always, with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, it is okay to talk. This episode, we are back to 75% British, 25% Irish, but slightly different, but we're always 100% Giants. Kev and Shane are with me this evening as we start their top five breakdowns with our first episode in the series, focusing on Shane's favourite O-line. How are we doing?
Yeah, not bad. Try and get this out the way, and then we can really focus on the players in the draft. But it's good to be on. I think it must have been about a month since I've been on, because obviously we had the break, and then I wasn't able to get on last week either. But looking forward to getting into the top five. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of mature debate between myself and Kev over all these positions we're going to be covering. But looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, good to be back on. Now, this is where the fun starts, isn't it? I mean, we've had a good chunk of free agency out of the way now, just waiting on one position. And now we can crack on with, filling our roster with rookies who we hope can do something for the team. And, top fives is always an interesting debate, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know we're up against England, who are currently playing. I have no idea what the score is. I haven't looked. It's 1-0 to England. Oh, there we go. It's starting well.
What do you mean, to England? Of course it is. Two calls bringing it home next year, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
We'll save that for the Shane and Craig England pod. But yeah, we understand we're up against them this evening, so it might be slightly quieter than normal. But obviously, if you are watching, get your questions in. And as you can see, we had to bring back Aaron after last week's incredible work breaking down the offensive line and talking about Evan Neal. We couldn't just leave it there, especially when we're about to talk about more offensive line. So we've brought you back. You looking forward to flipping it across to the draft now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just so nice for you guys having me on. I had to come back twice, right? So two in a row. Let's get them in the can and talk about the best, the supreme athletes, the best position in the draft, and as Shane knows.
And you don't have to follow the script that Craig's written for you. Honestly, you can just
Now, before we begin, I just need to put a parental guidance warning on this episode, because there may be talk about big butts, and Kev cannot lie. But that's just the way that the offensive line goes when we start talking. So, obviously, if you are watching this,
Craig, just so people, are we doing our top five offensive tackles, top five interior offensive line, and then Kev's doing his top five big butts?
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm not doing any butts. I'll disclaimer: I've not done a top five big butts.
I think that might have to be for Big Blue UK and Ireland After Dark.
The exclusive Patreon edition. If you are watching this on YouTube, X, Twitch, or Facebook, do get involved in the comments, like this video, subscribe if you aren't already, hit that notification bell. Shane is back, and obviously we've all gone to Carnage straight away, so nothing new there. Before we get into our lovely draft content, where there is the return of the mock draft tracker, we've got some new players who will be wearing Big Blue, as Kev has already alluded to. It's not quarterback. We wish it was quarterback. Don't know about you boys, but I just wish this saga was over, because I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing Aaron Rodgers' name. I'm sick of seeing Russell Wilson's name as well. But, the second it's confirmed, myself and friend of the pod, Ryan Disdeer, have both agreed that we're going to go down to Subway and order a Danger Witch if Russell signs. So watch out for that content. But let's have a chat about free agents. the signings have slowed down since last week, and the Giants are looking at depth pieces of their roster while they continue to hold out hope that Rodgers can make a decision rather than sitting on his arse. First up, we have re-signed guard Aaron Stinney on a 1-year contract. The 31-year-old signed a 1-year deal, the same as he did last year. And last year he went on to appear in 16 games, starting 3 of them. He got a 47.9 overall PFF grade, 56.4 pass blocking, and 50.5 run blocking. So not amazing numbers across the board, but as we well know, as soon as Andrew Thomas went down last year, it all went to shit. On to the new signings. We have linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, which sounds like a Harry Potter character, I'm not going to lie. He is signed after a 6-year stint with the 49ers. Undrafted in 2019, he spent the season on the practice squads. 2020, he saw the field mostly as a special teamer, and has recorded 37 tackles in 5 seasons since then. He started a career-high 3 games in 2024 and recorded his first ever interception. He will go into the depth rotation, more than likely behind Akereke and McFadden. Up next is defensive tackle Jeremiah Ledbetter, who has signed a 1-year deal worth $1.775 million. The vet was a 6th-round pick in 2017 by the Lions, but has also spent time with the Bucs and the Jags on their rosters, whilst also spending time on the practice squads of the Ravens and the Cardinals. In 6 seasons, he has 3.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 12 quarterback hits, 80 total tackles, and a fumble recovery. Last year, he recorded career highs in sacks with 2 and total tackles with 38. So another kind of bit part player. Anybody who's watched the Talking Giants show from earlier on this week will know that Bobby is a massive fan of Ledbetter and has done a breakdown there. So it's well worth checking out. Next up, outside linebacker, and this is where we're going to go to pot here. Victor Dimujeke. I have no idea. I'm not even going to pretend that was right. But he's a 6th-round pick. He was selected by the Cardinals in 2016. Spent his entire career so far in Arizona. Predominantly a special teamer. Seen time on the defensive front with 67 total tackles, 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 16 quarterback hits, and 2 forced fumbles. And then finally, we actually got some news today about a brand new wide receiver with little Jordan Humphreys. And it turns out he ain't so little. 6'4", 225 pounds. He was signed by the Saints in 2019 as an undrafted rookie free agent. And during his 3 seasons there, sparsely used with just 25 targets, 17 receptions, 309 yards and 3 touchdowns. Trip to New England in 2022 was no better, just 3 targets. But the last 2 years have seen him in Denver with Sean Payton, where he had 63 targets and 44 receptions for 455 yards and 4 touchdowns. So a big-bodied receiver, probably one thing that we are missing. I guess his only detraction would be the fact that he doesn't have special teams kind of experience, shall we say. And if you look at our wide receiver room at the moment with Slayton, Neighbours and Wandale heading it up, you're probably looking at somebody who's going to need a bit of special teams acumen if you're going to be on the backup side there. But Shane, other than Humphreys, there has been a lot of focus, I think, on depth pieces with sizable special teams impact in their career. A few of these players have been getting above vet minimum deals as well. Is this a sizable shift in tact from the front office to move away from rookies and lower level players, do you think?
I think it's a potential, yeah. I mean, special teams, we've seen it numerous times kind of over the last couple of seasons, really. Our special teams hasn't quite been where we'd want it to ideally be. I definitely feel that special teams was probably the one area where there's been more of a regression over recent years. And I think that, maybe they've opted to go the route of players that have been in the league a while, know what they're doing, aren't going to be giving away stupid penalties. But, I do also think there's a possibility that some of the players we have picked up could very well they're not going to be a lock for the 53 at the end of the day, especially these kind of players that are at that minimum or just over it.
Kev, you look there at Finnegan Flowers and Ledbetter, Jumakaje. I have no idea. That's a completely different pronunciation to what I did earlier. And Jordan Humphrey. Is any of those stand out as being a real contributor?
Yeah, I think you are right. I was just to Bobby over and over the other pod during the weekend. When I saw this, I thought, "Oh, he's okay." Like what? Like I've heard of him. I've seen him play a little bit, and he's like a good sort of like run stuffing defensive tackle. So I think he can come and do a job. If will he be a starter? I'm not necessarily sure. Do I think we have a starter on the roster at that position? Again, I'm not really sure. I think it might be a case of just throwing some half decent bodies at it, and hopefully someone takes the reins. I mean, again, would you have a mixture of Ledbetter being the bigger bodied guy inside, and then Golston coming in on passing downs, maybe? The McKJ, he performed quite well. If you look at some of his stats and some of his the metrics, he sort of I don't have them to hand. They kind of like played either the same as or a bit better than Aziz Ojulari last season. So he's just one of the other ones that coming in and sort of adding depth to the area. I think you are right. Instead of going for like the vet minimums that we've had to in the past to get the salary cap sorted, the salary cap's in a really good position now, where we are going for that not mid-tier free agents, but that that just below mid-tier free agents. Although I do look at some of the signings like Golds and stuff like that as being like potential starters. You can tell that depth was a worry, and they have added players. I think of a sort of higher caliber than they have in the last couple of years. Everyone plays special teams apart from Humphreys, but I think they quite like Humphreys. I think he had a bit of a breakout season last year. He can't remember how many catches he had in his yards, but he's a big 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver who can fly a little bit. So you bring him in to see what he can do. I think depth was an issue last year, and everyone talked about it, and it was obvious in the field. And I do think that they've tried to bring players in that won't have a severe drop-off if they actually have to have playing time.
Aaron, if you look at some of these contracts that we've handed out to players, and then you look at the players' previous season, there's a lot of players where we've turned around and said the words, coming off a career-high season. Is that something, do you think, that they've looked at internally?
I think those are the guys you always want to take at this time as well, before the draft, is the guys that are coming off the career high season. We haven't had the cap room to afford anything other than the guys that are on the scrap heap after the draft, where we haven't filled rosters out with rookies. These guys, Stinney is a great example. He's not a guy that you want on the field from what we've seen from him previously. However, if you have to go down to your second or third string guy because of injuries, long-term injuries, short-term injuries, like at least they're a known quantity, and they're not just the guy off the sofa or the guy off someone else's practice squad who's not good enough to play. They are that little bit next level up. Plus the experience that they bring as a veteran into the. I think what's overlooked a lot of the time is those position group rooms, where you've got a few guys that have played in the league and they can break down tape for the guys that are starting, not just the coaches, but they can kind of break down these things down and start working on things, particularly helping those young guys, being an example of what it means to be a pro. Because if you're on your third team, maybe you're not athletically gifted, but you're doing something right to stay in the league, because all the coaches talk to each other and go, hey, this guy, you had him last year, what's he like? And you get that kind of feedback. So I think that's where we're going now. We've got a little bit more room to spend, not vet min, to go that next little threshold up and bring in some guys that, if you do find a diamond, great. If not, if Dexter goes down, we've got a guy that we can plug in, hopefully still get some run stuff in the middle and not have to completely change our defense scheme to try and try and get the ball back once a game.
And also, just to add as well, like a lot of players we brought in are those ones coming off their rookie contracts. They're 26, 27, they're ascending players, the players like you said that have had a season, had a best personal best seasons. Apart from the trenches, you can get away with having like Roy Robertson Harris and Jeremiah Ledbetter, who are 30, and bringing back Stinney, who is a camp body, let's face it, or he should be anyway. But those other lads, you can have those interior defensive linemen as a little bit older, but the rest of them are all very young players who are kind of like, finishing off their rookie contract and slowly going up. I'm not saying they'll get anywhere and be fantastic, but they're definitely like playing better than they have done the last couple of years.
Yeah, hilariously, our 2021 draft class that no longer exists on the roster, with Azeez Ojulari going to the Eagles, has been recuperated with offcuts from other 2021 draft classes from other teams. So it's interesting to see. Just one interesting point just to put on there for little Jordan Humphrey. I was talking to Brian O'Leary from the Irish NFL show, who's a Giants fan and friend of the pod earlier, and he mentioned that apparently the Broncos, when they said they weren't re-signing little Jordan Humphrey, he offered to potentially go and try out as tight end, which could be maybe something we look at. I don't know. Big-bodied receiver there. I mean, he's a big lad, not far off what you would expect a prototypical tight end to look like. So maybe something to watch as we go through the next few weeks and past the draft. Go on, Shane. The unmute was so quick there.
Kelvin Benjamin-esque. I did see someone online, they'll say Lil Jordan Humphrey, A+ name, D+ player.
Harsh. While we're on the subject of draft prospects, it's back to Shane. Maybe that's why he was so quick on the old mute button. He was excited to get the mock draft tracker back. Off our last mock draft update was back on the 4th of Feb. So it's been a while, and we've got 7 of our 8 draft analysts have released new mock drafts since our last update. So I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so as I say, a lot of analysts have been putting kind of new ones out, and these have been based on kind of post-combine results and also post-free agency as well. So I'll just bring it up on screen for those that can view, who are watching us live. You can see the guys that have got new results out. Now, disclaimer, Mel Kiper does have a new mock draft out, which came out on the 18th of March, so just a few days ago. However, his pick remains the same. So whilst it's a new mock draft for him, the picks stay the same, so we've not bothered highlighting that one. But there has been a little bit of change with some of the previously mocked ones. So we'll go from left column at the top all the way down. So Daniel Jeremiah now has us on the 18th of March, taking Shador Sanders at number 3. This is after Cam Ward went at number 1 and Abdul Carter went at number 2. Bucky Brooks, 25th of February, also has us going Shador Sanders at number 3. The same 2 players go off the board first as Daniel Jeremiah, but in an alternating order this time, with Abdul Carter going first and Cam Ward second. Lance Zerline on the 3rd of March, his latest mock draft has us taking Cam Ward. He has Abdul Carter going first and Travis Hunter going second. So we got the pick of our choice of quarterback there. As I say, Mel Kuipers has remained exactly the same. He has Cam Ward 1, Abdul Carter 2. Phil Yates, now 11th of March, now has us going for Shador Sanders. He has Cam Ward at 1 and Travis Hunter at 2. Jordan Reed, 4th of March, has us going for Cam Ward. He previously had us going at Travis Hunter, and he's got Sanders going first and Abdul Carter going second. Matt Miller, the 3rd of February, he's letting us down. Tag Matt Miller in, tell him to sort it out, get a new mock draft out, because we want to keep it updated. And I think, 6 weeks is long enough for a draft analyst not to have done a mock draft when we're probably doing them every day, at least multiple times. And then last but not least, we've got the beast, Dane Brugler, who Craig, I believe his beast guide is out on the 9th of April, 3rd of April.
Yeah. He tweeted that. He tweeted out earlier. It's the 9th of April. He's working day and night for it, which sounds familiar, doesn't it, Shane? Working day and night on draft content.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that one for sure. But he had a mock draft on the 4th of March. Now, he's the disclaimer here. He has us taking Cam Ward, but he has us trading into the number 1 spot with the Tennessee Titans, hence us getting Cam Ward. So that is the latest of the analysts' mock draft that we're kind of tracking.
I think friend of the pod, Jordan Reed, has us trading up to 1 as well.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. He does. Interesting enough, obviously, Matt Miller has been busy because it was announced today that he's sticking with ESPN and has signed a new contract there. So maybe that was the problem, Shane. You know, he was on a bit of a holdout, waiting for his contract dispute.
Yeah, now he's counting all the millions.
So general consensus there pretty much is that the Giants go quarterback, right? Which I think is what we've all kind of assumed. Shane, we're going to talk about it.
I don't like that, Shane. that's leading, that is.
We're going to talk about it when we talk about quarterbacks soon. But I just want to highlight to the viewers and just give them a little sneak preview. But you're not on the Sanders train, are you, in the top 3?
No, get me off that. Send me the other way. I have no interest in Shador Sanders at all.
It's been a good little fun conversation between us in the group chat about how Shane.
We say conversation. We got asked for our votes, and I got told no. That's the conversation. We went back and forth a little bit. I basically went, I don't want Shador. We're having Shador. There was no conversation. It was like that Brian Clough analogy, whatever it was, when I said to him all them years ago, "Oh, what do you do? Someone disagrees with you," and he went, "Well, we discuss it for 20 minutes, then we decide my way's the right way." That's what I feel like.
Keep an eye out for what is it? Good teams, great teams. I can't remember the name of the bloody Twitter account. I'm going to quickly find it. Good teams win, great teams cover. Keep an eye out for their fan-led mock draft and try and figure out who we've taken at 3 that's got Shane so riled up this early into the draft season. Should we move on to something that would cheer Shane up? Let's talk about offensive line. We have the top 5 prospects at interior offensive line. Now, the Giants last drafted an interior offensive lineman back in 2023, as John Michael Schmitz was the pick for the G-Men. The last time a first rounder on the interior O-line was drafted by the Giants was center Brian Williams in 1989, which, if my maths is correct, was before Shane was born. Maths is correct. So there we go. Now, we're going to bring it up in a second. We're going to do it one by one. However, just as a precursor, Shane and Kev agree on 4 players in their top 5, meaning that they both have one player, the other one doesn't. And they have 3 players at the same rank. And this one's interesting. So we've got Kev's up on screen now. So interior offensive line, number 1 is Tyler Booker from Alabama. 2 is Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. 3 is Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. 4 is Marcus Mbao from Purdue. And 5 is Jonah Savanea from Arizona. Kev, have I pronounced those right?
Very good. Yeah, Jonah Savanea. Very good. Sorry, one. Marcus Bow. The M silent.
Marcus Bow. Okay, but there we go. So, Kev, do you want to just give us a very quick sort of talk about maybe why Booker is the standout for you?
Yeah, I mean, very close between Tyler Booker and Donovan Jackson. I mean, really, I think that one of the things is, like, you look at them and so, like, they grade out very, very similarly. But it's a case of, like, you know, I just love Tyler Booker's attitude. You know, sometimes, like, you have a player, who should go first? Who should go one over the other? And when you see some of the interviews and stuff like that, Tyler Booker's attitude is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, he just wants to hurt people. He just wants to get people on the ground and absolutely hurt them. I mean, you know, and he's got the pedigree as well. You know, he's a 5-star recruit going into Alabama. You know, he played 12 games in his rookie season. He played 13 games at left guard. He was second team all SEC in his second year, and his last year, you know, played 13 games. His first team all SEC. You know, the geezer's massive. He's what is he? 321 pounds, 6'5". He's He's got great build. He's got good leverage. He's really, really strong. He's got good, good strength, good length. Like I said, really good motor. Really good anchor as well. When he drops that big butt and gets into his sets, he's very hard to move. And he's agile as well. He's very, very quick for a man that size. He really gets off the snap. There's not really many cons with him. In pass protection, he can struggle a little bit, against sort of the quicker interior rushers. And sometimes on some of the films, he misses a stunt. You can see him kind of like whiff on a stunt. So, but all in all, he's the type of player I haven't gone late first round. He's that type of player. If he's there for our second pick, I'll be all over that. I think he's a fantastic player. And, he's got that pedigree out of Alabama as well.
So we'll let Shane and Maya have a chat about Booker in a second. Obviously, you can see it at the bottom there if you're watching along on YouTube. 20 years old, 6'5", 321 pounds, 1,515 snaps at left guard from his 1,700 total snaps, and is the 23rd highest prospect on Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. So, obviously, well thought of there.
And just one of the big ones as well. Like he didn't allow a sack last year, and he only allowed 10 pressures last season. So he's just one of those players that he's so reliable. And he's kind of similar numbers back in 2023 as well. I mean, he is a plug and play guard that will play for 10, 12 years in the league.
So if we bring Shane's up, Shane, do you want to precurse yours with a little bit of controversy? And bear in mind, what I'm actually going to do is say that we're not going to talk about this player until we move on to the next position. But do you want to address that first?
I die, but now you're making me think I've done something I shouldn't have done.
Oh. Should we bring it up?
Yeah, bring it up.
Oh.
So I'm going to preempt, and
He's
I'm going to tell you Shane's right.
Yeah, for me, them arms are too short, man, to play tackle. Like, but just over 32 now. Like, I'm just not taking the chance. I mean, I will say, like, I'd have no issues him trying him out at tackle and seeing what he can do. But I just think he's going to be better suited at guard than what he's at tackle. I think there's some traits, some physical traits that you just need to play certain positions. And for me, arm length, I mean, Aaron can jump in here and either agree with me or completely back my idea down, but I think arm length is one of those important traits that you need at offensive tackle in the offensive line.
Yeah, it's one of the most directly correlated statistical stats, arm length and Pro Bowl starting tackles. The only one that ever comes up that is a Pro Bowl tackle that had shortened 34-inch arms is Joe Thomas. Now, since he's retired, Joe Thomas has been questioned on this, and he tells everyone that measurement was a load of rubbish, and the guy didn't get the tape out right, and his arms are longer than that. So that's even in question. That the sub 34-inch arms. It's so important to be able to get your hands on the defender without getting off balance, and that is arm length. It's purely arm length that gets you there. If you're off balance, that's then when you are then giving the edge rusher a chance to win, whether that's through speed or power, or knocking your arms away and getting you off balance. Will Campbell shows great traits, and there is a chance he can be a tackle in the NFL. But he's a Pro Bowl guard, and why would you not just put him in at guard?
So we've got 4 players that are the same there. We've got Booker, Zabel, Bao, and Savanaya. Shane, just very quickly, we'll quickly touch on this. Donovan Jackson is Kev's number 2. Where is he for you?
Can I guess why he's not in the top 5?
Sure.
Injury.
Yeah, that played a part. I mean, to be honest, I am trying to get into the habit this year of maybe not trying to put injured, not having injuries against a player, but it's just for me. I just think, I think the top two are better than him. I think Gray Zabel can be one of them players who, could be a little bit of a sneaky steal in the late end of the first. I think Marcus Bow is just a bit of a beast, to be perfectly honest with you. That's why I wanted him there. And again, Jonah Savagina, he's one of those that he's just a bit of a draft crush for me, so to speak, in kind of the sense of like, I really like him. He's one of the first players that I kind of saw tape on. And when I saw him, his tape from last year, I was like, I want that guy in my top 5 next year. And there was nothing that I've seen this year that made me think, no, I don't want him there. So it's kind of nothing against Donovan Jackson. I do think, he's a great interior offensive lineman, great guard, but he just doesn't crack that top 5 for me.
Yeah, just another thing on Sabanea. He was a tackle. He played left tackle for Arizona and then played very, very well. And a lot of people are saying, oh, he should be a guard. He should be a guard. Some people have him in tackle rankings. Some people have guard rankings. He himself has come out this week in an interview and said that he wants to play guard in the NFL. He thinks his attributes translate better to the guard position. He believes he can play left tackle in the league, but he thinks he wants to give guard a real go, and I think he'll be excellent.
I mean, Craig, if you just bring that list up again for us a second, please.
Yep.
I mean, you look at it, Campbell has played tackle, Zabel's played tackle. I think Bo's played some tackle, Kev. Am I right in saying?
He has, yeah.
And then you got Savagina that's played tackle as well. So kind of what me and Kev very briefly spoke about before we went on air is that, this is one of these weird years in the offensive line draft where it feels like I've never known so many players that have got experience in playing both outside and inside, and it's just going to come down to what your personal preferences. And as I say, for me, arm length, that's why Gray Zabel's there. I think he's got 32-inch arms as well. That's why I've got him in at guard rather than at tackle, and then that's what it is for Will Campbell as well. But there's going to be some tackles we're going to talk about in a minute that have played on the interior as well, and have even been projected to play interior this when they turn to the pros.
So Aaron, if you have a look at, you've got Booker, Zabel, Bow, Savanea. Which of those is kind of your preferred out of them? So
I think it really depends on what scheme you play on offense. So what you get at guard is do you want the more mobile, leaner type if you're running a zone scheme, or do you want the beefier down blocking man scheme? So, and again, if you look at tape and if you see a motorway for the running back to run down in the middle of the line, that's a man scheme. And if you see a running back stringing out behind the line and then cutting back through a small gap, that's a zone scheme. So depending on what scheme you run, it will really mean you go horses for courses on some of these guys. And so Tyler Booker, he is exactly what you're looking for in a man scheme, right? He is a big people mover. When you watch him, you see like what Mekhi Becton did, where he's moving guys in D linemen and he's owning them. They have no say in where they're going. He's crashing them into linebackers. But his footwork has something to be desired if you want him pulling, if you want him running in a zone scheme. So Booker, depending on what scheme you want, that will affect whether you take him over a Donovan Jackson, a Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel is one of my favorite O-linemen in the draft. He's if anyone doesn't know where North Dakota State, they're one of the FBS teams, which is basically like they're still a Premiership team, but they're a Scottish Premiership team. They still qualify for the Champions League, right? They still have so they can still have excellent players, but their competition that they're playing every week is not the same. But he's a 5-position guy. I've played all 5 positions on the line, right? I don't necessarily fit in any of the single place. He's got a few inches on me, but he shows great aspects to be a center and a guard. He, in a pinch, because of his footwork, his movement, he can probably get away with tackle, but he will have a long-term career. I would love him at 34 in the draft. Is it 34? 34 in the draft. we get our quarterback in the first round. If we keep our second round pick, hit that spot that we've talked about, right guard. We know also JMS at centre has not necessarily taken the next step yet. This is the guy that you would want to put in as that next, guy to fill up one of our interior spots. He's fantastic. Donovan Jackson, I think, might be a tackle. He filled in after Josh Simmons, was it? Yeah, Josh Simmons went down with ACL for Ohio. You look at that championship run, and Donovan Jackson moved to tackle and was more than solid. And that might make it, in this draft, we are lacking tackles. There's lots of good guards and lots of tackles to guard conversions. If you've got a guy that can go the other way, it's Donovan Jackson. And that he might not be a Pro Bowl tackle. He's probably going to be a right tackle, but they're so in demand in the league to find a solid. We've seen how much we've struggled for right tackle play. And if you can get a guy that's a guard to move to tackle, his tape that he's put on from last season, that's the kind of guy. And that might make him the first one of these guards that goes, because he has the opportunity to be a really good tackle.
And the thing is, he's probably, like you said, the only player that will who could move from inside to outside, when usually it's the other way around. I mean, this past season, he started off at left guard, played 286 snaps, and because of the injury of Simmons, he had to go outside and he played 530 snaps at left tackle and didn't look out of place, more than held his own on that championship run, like you said.
So, Kev, I'm not going to ask you about the shots fired, as Steve put it, about the Premiership versus Scottish Premiership analogy there. What I will do is just ask for your thoughts and your notes on Grazer Bell.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a class player. Like I said, he went to that Senior Bowl as well, and he played every single spot against the line, against top players, and looked elite. Not just coming from North Dakota State. Like I said, I'd say it's more like championship, premiership without promotion. But he kind of he definitely held his own and played so well. I mean, I've got him as my number one interior, my number one center. Sorry, because I see him playing center, like we were saying. I mean, to come from that level, and like I said, got to the Pro Bowl and play so well. He was a zero star recruit. I mean, obviously, because you're not getting many stars down at the FCS level. But he played all 5 years down there pretty much. He's so quick, he can move. He's a violent run blocker, really good hand usage. The intelligence is there. Like you said, you can play him all across the board. I mean, the only knocks would be his measurables, his his size. I mean, he's what? Well, he's 6'6", but I mean, he's 316. But playing against lesser competition, he's we wanted to see him playing SEC players against SEC players, because that's going to be more like what it is in the NFL. But like I said, he sort of ticked all those boxes when he went to the Senior Bowl. So I'm very high on him. He'll be gone. He'll be gone in the first round. I can see some of his versatility and the tape he put on this past season, and also the showing at the Senior Bowl. Someone will snap him up in the mid to late first round.
I think him and Bo are similar prospects. So the difference is, I think Zabel is a man and zone scheme guy. Bo is a little bit lightweight, and you see that on tape a little bit. He struggles with the power rushes, but he's got really good hands, really good pop with his hands. But he's a little bit lightweight. He looks like he plays less than 303 pounds. He's again a 5-position guy. You might see him being able to step out and tackle in a pinch, but he could play center, probably likely to play guard. But he's more of a zone scheme only guy. He's not going to be in your man scheme, predominantly man scheme teams.
But because of that, in 2023 he played right tackle only. 2024 he played right tackle only. But just exactly like what May was saying there, just sort of watching the film, you can kind of see okay, you're playing well here and you are showing some good stuff. But imagine that just inside with a bit more protection and a bit more phone booth. I think he could be really good. And he would be around that range of 34 that I'd be like, if he's there, definitely snap him up and plug and play.
So just for those who are wondering why Kev said he's his centre one, Kev likes to be granular with his rankings, whereas Shane, he ain't got time for that because offensive line is offensive line, and he goes from there. But Shane, Marcus Bow, 21. I think he's the youngest of the prospects that are here. What are your thoughts on him? Because I mean, DJ's got him as the 50th highest prospect, which is quite high. And I think, am I right in saying he's only played 2 seasons? Is that right with Bow?
He played right guard in 2022.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know if that was a pivot or not. But yeah, you know, I do like him. I think he's definitely a second round talent. Whereas, like say, you got someone like Gray Zabel who is 100% a round one talent in my eyes. But would I take him? No, it's defensive line. But now, you know, I do quite like him. Again, he's one of those that's kind of got that kind of size for the guard position, 6'4", 303, and he's got 32-inch arms. So I think for me, although he's played right tackle at college, he's got that arm length that means he's going to have to kind of kick inside a bit similar to Will Campbell. He's just not as polished as what Will Campbell is, and also the kind of schools that he come up against weren't great. He did struggle a little bit against Ohio State and Penn State, and obviously Wisconsin, Notre Dame he would have played as well. So you know, he's kind of, to me, he's a little bit like Will Campbell in the sense he's going to have to kick inside, but he's just nowhere near as refined or as polished as what Campbell is.
Yeah, and I think you can see sometimes on the outside, Mayo put perfect, like, you know, his footwork isn't great, so he gets himself off balance. And you see him like lunging forward, and he's always kind of like not quite in the right position because he can't get his feet there quick enough. Because you're covering such a long space, you're covering such a big space on that outside outside tackle. So like the kick inside will do him wonders.
Yeah, but my big fear is if you put Dex over him, I think, you know, Dex has a field day at the moment with his size. 21, he's still got time to fill out, get in an NFL program, build out that strength. He's got, like I say, his pop on his hands are good. But if the defender gets inside that pop and he's going to drive him out of the way into the quarterback and collapsing that pocket on the inside is just a no-no.
Cool. And then the only other player that we haven't really covered in any detail, Shane, is Savanea. Arizona Wildcat. Like we've already said, he's got some versatility at both tackle spots, though predominantly a right tackle. Third fastest O-line 40 time, 4.95 seconds. I'm pretty sure that's faster than any of us could run the 40 quite comfortably. Probably not going to be an issue in the pro game, but still it shows what kind of an athlete he is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he played kind of last year split. He had just over 300 snaps at left tackle and at right tackle, so he's kind of got that versatility there. And again, he's also had some experience at guard back in kind of 2022. I think it might have been 2022 when I first seen him, and he was just one of them players who you watch the tape and you're just like, okay, who's this? I need to kind of zone in on a little bit more, and especially when you're watching O-line. O-line's not the sexy position, so you don't get the number highlighted. You don't get the player highlighted like you do when you're watching wide receivers. Like someone will go, "Oh, watch this one here." You just kind of watch the offensive line unit as generally, especially when you're watching the all 22 tape. So that's where the kind of you pick the player up on in regards to his number, which is how he stood out to me. But you know, I think it can be a bit of a mauler, to be honest with you. He can be quite kind of nasty, and that's what you kind of want from your offensive lineman. You know, much better in pass blocking as well. Needs to improve his run blocking technique, but all being well, that'll hopefully come with kind of time and experience at the next level.
Yeah, I'd like to try him at tackle, a right tackle specifically. The best way to describe him is Samoan, right? We've seen those big Samoan rugby players. He carries 320 pounds like most people carry 290. He looks lightweight for his size. He also at times looks like he plays a little bit lightweight. He does struggle with that bull rush off the edge. He's got the footwork to deal with the speed guys. You see his footwork is fantastic. which is why I think he's a tackle. He's certainly a zone scheme guy as well. So that right zone and outside zone, he's able to get out round the wide end and hook them in. And then that's when you see him really dominate on tapes at times is once he's got his hands on a guy, he's all right. But that power ball rush, a Trayvon Walker type against him as that kind of power defensive end. Yeah, I don't think he's going to have a great day against him.
Like I say, one thing I did notice about him is he's very good at mirroring, isn't he? He's very good at those, like doing the loop, isn't it? Doing the outside loop, mirroring him. Like I said, although he hasn't got great strength going forward as such, in pass pro, once he gets his hands on you, the grip, he just once he gets the grip on the pads, the ends find it so hard to get off him.
Yeah.
So, just quickly before we move on to offensive tackle, none of these players are going to be taken with pick 3. I'm not going to upset Shane and even pretend that they are. But let's say you have the choice of any of them to fit the Giants. Which are you going for, Aaron? We'll start with you.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Zabel would be my favourite. I'd absolutely love him to come in and support that interior. Whether that's the right tack guard that we've still got an issue with, whether that's the centre. I just think it fits too much about our needs at the moment.
Kev?
I think if Bo's there in that second round, because I think Jackson and Booker will go, but I think if Marcus Bo's there that second round, like I see a lot of people, I'm higher on him. I think Sabanea is an early to mid second round player. A lot of people have him going in the third round. If he slipped to the beginning of this third round, that's an absolute no brainer. You'd almost trade up a few spots to go and get him.
Shane.
Just hanging a war on mute then. I'm going to go for Sabayena, and I'm going to kind of agree what Kev says. I actually think he might fall into the third round because of the talent that you've got at defensive tackle, at edge, even at cornerback. To be honest, at the end of the day, you've got some elite players in those positions. That means talent is going to drop elsewhere. So, would I hate drafting Sabayena in the third round? Absolutely not. Do you move up maybe 4 or 5 spaces if you've got an intention to use him, especially if you're not going to bother with an Evan Neal kind of experiment at guard, and you take Savay in and you say, you know what, we'll give him a blast as a swing tackle potentially, but if not, we'll also give him time at guard as well and see where he works out best. So, I'd love him with our third pick of the draft overall at in the third round.
And also, just to piggyback that as well, don't be surprised. I know how much you love it, Shane. The running backs in that second round. I can see a cheeky run in the middle of the second round to the end, a couple of running backs coming off the board, which could push players like this down.
So that's our interior. We're going to move on to offensive tackle. Now, the Giants last drafted an offensive tackle in 2022 with our friend Evan Neal, who I think for all intents and purposes, everyone on this podcast hopes he doesn't play tackle anymore. The last non-first round offensive tackle was Matt Pert back in 2020. So not something that we've kind of dabbled in quite a lot in recent draft history. Now, Kev and Shane agree on 4 players again, and I think it's obvious which one of Shane's is missing from his list. But there's only 2 players at the same rank. So this one's going to have a little bit more debate than the last one, potentially. So if we bring up Shane's top 5 now, Shane, do you want to walk us through this one?
Yeah, sure. So at number 5, I've got someone who I'm very high on, and that's Ozzy Trapillo out of Boston College. Number 4, I've got Josh Connolly Jr. out of Oregon. At 3, I've got Kelvin Banks Jr. of Texas. Number 2, surprisingly, maybe for Kev, I've gone for Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. And at number 1, I've got Armand Membo out of Missouri.
So, Shane, any guesses as to who Kev's offensive tackle number 1 is?
Armand Membo.
Kev, do you want to walk us through your top 5, and we'll reveal that now?
Yeah, traits. I'm going Will Campbell, Josh Simmons,
Paul Holmes Campbell.
Armando Membu, Kelvin Banks Jr., and Josh Conley Jr. Oh, you got Aussie triple O. Fair play to you, man, because I've got him number 7 or number 8. I'm keeps flip-flopping him with another player. I love him. I kind of thought he was one of my sneaky high on, and you got him at 5. That's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, if you look at it, it's quite similar. Obviously, like you take Will Campbell out. If you have Will Campbell as a guard, you got Simmons and Membo 1 and 2, and then Kelvin Banks Jr. and Connolly Jr. Sort of the next 2 along. And I'm glad you got Josh Simmons at 2, because I look at other rankings, right? Consensus rankings and individual people's rankings, and people have him at like 5 and 6, and I'm like, they're obviously dinging him for that injury that we were talking about before, where Donovan had to come in for him at the beginning of the season last year. But I mean, Josh Simmons is phenomenal. I mean, he is 6'5", 310. If it wasn't for that injury last year, so many more people would be talking about him. I just think he's got the length, he's got the strength, he's got really good leverage and balance. He can be a nasty blocker, and I think he's a very smart player as well. Like you see him, he's very, very quick off the snap, which I love. When a player's quick off the snap, you can just get into your set so much quicker than the defensive player. I mean, one thing that was noted, he struggled with penalties. Although, because I said he gets quick off the snap, he can be a little bit too quick sometimes. He had 25 penalties in the 2022 and 23 season. But yeah, I mean, like if you were to make a tackle in this league, it kind of would look like Josh Simmons. And I thought I was a lot higher than everyone else, but I'm really glad to see Sheen's got him up there too.
So before we have a look at some of these players on an individual level, Aaron, do you want to just give us your opinion on the top 5 and just maybe give us what you would potentially put as a 5 there?
Yeah, so as I touched on, I agree with Shane. I have Will Campbell off the tackle rankings and as a guard only for me. But Member and Simmons really hard to split. Very, very similar guys, and maybe I think Member will go first in this draft, largely because of the injury history on Simmons. I really like Connolly as well. Again, another guy that's potentially available top of the second, although because of the scarcity of true tackle types, I think there's a chance he's gone. Kelvin Banks, another guy that's a potentially one of these tackles that may end up as a pro guard. I think he definitely gets a shot at tackle, but his best position may be in at guard. And Trapeo, again, another traits guy. I think his dad was like a all college kind of lineman as well. So low ceiling on him. He's probably at near his best, but if his worst case is he's a swing tackle on any team in the league right now, he'd be the best swing tackle on the Giants roster.
So I'm going to start off by looking at Banks for 2 reasons. The first reason is the fact that Peter Joyce has said Kelvin Banks Jr. over everyone else. The second reason is I look at NFL Draft Buzz quite a lot throughout the season to kind of start planning draft Bibles and also just to get kind of like a slight head start on the consensus. Kelvin Banks Jr. was the consensus number 1 tackle for a long time. You've both got him obviously lower. Kev, you've got him at number 4. Shane, you've got him at number 3. But if we take Will Campbell out of that, I think de facto they're the same ranking there. What about, Kev, I'll come to you first. What about Banks has changed people's opinion on him?
A couple of things. I mean, you go into the film a little bit, right? First of all, and things that stood out to me that I didn't like. I mean, he's got a powerful build. He's very light feet. He's very smart. He was first team all SEC and the Outland Trophy winner. Do you know what I mean? So he's got pedigree, proper pedigree. And he's a good player, of course. I just thought his hands were very wide. I just felt like instead of like getting up into the chest, they just kind of was bear hugging a lot of pass rushers. And I thought when he got to the second level as well, he kept falling over. Kept like overextending and falling over. Like, so out in space, he was kind of a wee bit useless. Like, but and also I think so that's the stuff I saw. But I just think, it's that time of season, isn't it? We're a couple of months away from the league, from the season being over, and you have your players like Armand Membu who are shooting up the boards, who weren't necessarily in people's top fives like come the December when the season was coming to an end. So it's kind of a mix of like really watching. It's a mix of really watching the film and watching what a player is like. Snap after snap after snap, and not just highlights, because anyone can put together a highlight reel. I know Shane bangs on about how much he hates when people say, "Oh, I watched highlights of that player," and it's like, for fuck's sake, watch some film, will you? And I think it's a case of people getting around to doing that, and not just looking at, oh, he's the all SEC player, so he's going to be class, but actually, watching the film and picking out a player's flaws and the rise of other players because people are doing that as well.
Shane, what were your thoughts on watching Calvin Banks?
Yeah, like Kev says, the hand placement was a massive question for me and something I wasn't overly keen on. And again, he's another one of these players who I have, seen analysts say he could potentially have to kick inside. Now, for me, I think maybe he's just a little bit too big to be kicking inside, and I think I'd be more certain of him starting at the tackle position. But the hand issue, and I mean, this is what I alluded to with the previous one. I've tried not to kind of put injuries against a player, so to speak. And, that's why I've got Josh Simmons as high as I have, because it was a case of, something. Okay, let's take the injury issue away. If he'd played this year, where would I have had him? I think he'd have comfortably been an offensive tackle 1, to be perfectly honest with you. I think the only reason Mbu's over him is because he's had a full season to play and hasn't got the injury issues against him. But at the end of the day, with the tape that I've seen from Josh Simmons over the last couple of years, that gave me enough confidence to say, okay, you know what? He's in my top 5. He's going to go into number 2. If he hadn't had the injury, he'd probably be number 1, but he has. So I'm still going to consider him. And for me, I just think when they're both fit, Calvin Banks and Josh, I think that Josh is going to be the better offensive tackle at the end of the day, and he could potentially be, for me, the best left tackle in this draft class come 3 or 4 years' time.
And just to go back to what I said on Banks as well, by no means am I saying he's a bad player. He's a first-round player for me. Like, I definitely think he's going to go in the first round. And he's a starting tackle in this league. Or guard, depending on what he's like when he come in. He will be a starting player. So you're telling me if he's there, him or Josh Connolly's there at pick 34 and we're staying there, you'd snap them up. And then you'd work out between them and Illuminor who plays right guard, who plays right tackle.
Yeah, I think I've seen he's Banks is 33.5-inch arms, so that means he's definitely a guard. That 34 cut off, but you see it on tape. He plays so low generally in the run game, which is such an awesome thing, because obviously when you've got your knee bent and in line, you're coiled up like a spring, ready to launch that power. As soon as you start bending at the waist, you're losing that power, right? So that's why the arm length's really important, because it allows you to stay in your kind of perfect position. And you see on tape in pass sets, he starts off balancing, like you say, in downfield as well. He falls forward a lot. That's a classic trait of short arms, and so I think that's what's hurting his stock as the top tackle. And I think again, he's got starting guard quality, all pro bowl potential at that position, but I just think if you're drafting him as a tackle, you might end up in 4 years' time going, this guy's terrible, what do we do? Oh, let's kick him into guard and see if we can salvage him and find out
who would do that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
So your cutoff, right? Out of curiosity, because I am curious about this. So your cutoff for arm length is 34. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm forever the optimist. So I always give him 33. If it's under 33, then I worry. But I always try and give him the 33. But yours is 34, definitely. It's like once it goes under, it's an issue then.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, there are always going to be exceptions. Like you say, your wingspan can sometimes come up with that. But for taller guys, so guys that are over 6'4", that the natural instinct is to bend at the waist. If you're a shorter tackle, which is rarer, but you can see guys, the height of a tackle is not necessarily a killer. But the taller you are, just it's so natural to want to bend at the waist, and that just kills your power. And not only can you be then beat with a swim move and beaten inside, which is that quicker route to the quarterback, you can also be put off balance and driven back into the quarterback as well, which is it's not what you want as those for your tackle.
And that's what that means just for people. When you hear like Daniel Jeremiah and people people like that talking about this, saying he is a waist bender, that's exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So if we have a look at Mbemu, seeing as he's kind of moving up boards, Aaron, what I mean, again, we're looking at someone here who 20 years old, who's quite young, second fastest time for an offensive lineman with a 4.9140, which is incredible. 11.5 prospect on Daniel Jeremiah's top 50, just really flying up boards. What do you attribute that down to?
So the tape is, let's say all of these guys, they've not necessarily separated each other on tape. But when you take a guy that's 20, he's a 3-sport athlete as well. He's a wrestler, and I think he tennis or something random as well. That he's, so which tells you he's got some athleticism for a big guy, 300-pound guy to be able to, hold his own on a tennis court. And I think this guy's ceiling is the highest. I think he doesn't have the lowest floor either. So if you take the guy and they never get any better. I don't think Membu's necessarily the top guy on tape coming out of college. But what you're saying is this guy can grow. So, we said about Trapeo, I don't think he gets much better than he is now. This guy could be the all-pro tackle, the top tackle in the league. It's a big projection to say that he's going to get there. But, that's what gets you into the top 10 in the NFL draft, is that you might be one of the best players on tape, but also they don't think you've hit your ceiling yet.
Shane, you've got him as number 1 as well. So what is it that you see in him that puts him above Simmons, which obviously Kev's got them reversed?
As I said, for me, it's the fact that he probably played a full season this year, so you really got to see what he can kind of do as he's stepping into the NFL. You throw in the fact that he's 20 years old as well. Okay, I'd probably like him to be a little bit taller than 6'4", but I'm relying on him maybe gaining a couple more inches when he moves into the next level.
But just quickly, Shane, do you not find that his athleticism makes up for his height? Like he's so fast to get to the point.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that's kind of it. That's what led me to having him in front of Simmons. He's had a full season, that he's so young, that he's so athletic, and I think there is still some room to improve and develop there.
Yeah, and the one knock on him is he does struggle with the ball rush. But again, if there's anything that you think a 20-year-old might be able to grow out as they get into an NFL weight room, it's that being able to put on a little bit more strength to handle that ball rush. He's already got the speed rushers in his pocket. That ball rush, a guy that's 20, that NFL program all around him, that's where you're going to go, well, actually, this guy's going to he's going to have every little trick in the book.
And I think also, one thing he hasn't got, sorry, Jin, is he hasn't really got a nasty streak about him. He hasn't got, that sort of like drive you into the dirt type streak about him. He's a bit more of a finesse player, but like you said, at 20 years of age, if you're an offensive line coach, you'll be like, oh, give me that player. Give me that. I can work with that. And like you said, an NFL program, strength and conditioning program, and then obviously just being in a man's locker room. Do you know what I mean? I think the sky's the limit for him, to be fair.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, I think the other thing, is it Patriots who signed Moses in free agency?
Yeah.
You imagine Patriots take him at number 4, and he's going to get to learn from Moses, a player who's been in the league for however many years, has seen it all, done it all. He can learn some really, really valuable stuff from a guy like that.
Yeah, I think his ceiling in this draft is 3. And that's not because I don't think we're taking him. I think I proposed earlier on Twitter an option where we may trade down some with Jacksonville or someone else, and he could go as high as 3. So to jump the Patriots to get a guy like this, that's his ceiling in this draft. But I don't expect to see him on the board at 8 or 9.
So if we look at the other player in that kind of double act that we were just talking about in Josh Simmons, season-ending knee injury in October, which saw him miss the combine, which I think that a lot of people don't appreciate how much the combine can do for a draft prospect and how much it can adversely affect them as well, considering essentially all it is swimsuit Olympics, as it's called. Kev, does the knee injury concern you, and does it concern teams, do you think?
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. But the thing is, we didn't hear too much about the combine because that's what the medical checks are. And that's when you kind of hear rumblings about, that's not quite right. I mean, I'm not saying it's a big thing, but that we did hear more about Abdul Carter's foot, saying that, it's not perfectly fine, but it should be okay for the season. But Simmons, we didn't hear anything. So as far as we can take from that, it's something that we kind of shouldn't worry about until we hear more concrete evidence that it is something to worry about.
Yeah, Simmons' floor is 25 with the Texans. There's no way with the Texans' needs at O-line, trade them all away and what have you. There's no way Simmons goes past the Texans at 25. That's his floor, and the Texans will be laughing if they get a player of this quality because of the injury tag. And if he has to sit part of his rookie year because he's going to miss a bit of training camp, whatever. Yeah. 3-4 years down the line, you won't even remember that he missed a couple of games in his rookie year.
I mean, say the floor was 25 for him, you could very well see. So if he just starts slide that far, does someone like Kansas? We've seen how they struggled in the defensive line in the Super Bowl. Do they kind of maybe look at moving up, and then all of a sudden you're thinking of Kansas City Chiefs ended up with the best left tackle in this NFL draft?
So
typical, wouldn't it?
Yeah, talk about reading the mind. There are rumblings around that the Chiefs could quite easily trade up with someone like the Vikings at number 24 to pick up someone like that. And the name that has been mentioned is Josh Simmons there. There was some news 3 weeks ago from Ian Rappaport who said that the expectation is that he'll be ready for the start of the 2025 season, and the medical reviews during the combine have gone very well. So that obviously is why we haven't seen him start to fall on mock drafts.
And also, like we were saying, the Texans, just like the Texans, in free agency, they brought in Cam Robinson and Trent Brown on short-term deals to cover the tackle position. How perfect would it be to bring him in and sit behind them for a year, and then Bosch starts next season, and he could be one of the best tackles in the league.
So the one player further down was Josh Connolly Jr., and another younger prospect. The prospects just seem to get younger and younger as it goes. I think are we looking at this as the last year, or last year was the last year of the COVID sort of pushovers? So the sort of older prospects are going to be tailing off now.
The old super seniors, as they were called.
Super seniors, indeed. But yeah, Josh Connolly was the one that I was thinking about earlier. Only a 2-year starter, but 19 total pressures on 868 snaps is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you want to watch some good Josh Connolly tape, watch the Penn State game. The way he dealt with Abdul Carter really impressed me. That was the thing that probably solidified him in my top 5, to be honest. You got Abdul Carter, who's number 1 edge in this draft, has a good chance of being number 1 overall, and the way he kind of competed with him and kept him quiet at times and dealt with his moves at times was really, really impressive. Someone who's only a 2-year starter.
Yeah.
No, go on, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, I have him as a really good prospect that I like for us in early second round. I think he'll be gone because, again, this run on tackles, these guys are going to go. But he's not a day one starter in the NFL because he's so green and he needs that seasoning in the NFL weight room. But he'd be great to sit behind Illuminor this year, watch, learn, maybe get some snaps if there's an injury or whatever. But with the view that Illuminor can kick back into guard and this guy can be a right tackle, the following year. Great traits, athleticism for days. He's that guy. Again, just doesn't look like he has the strength. 311 pounds as well. He's a little on the light side. But again, get him in the weight room, get him learning, get him. He doesn't have to start day one, and he is definitely one of these guys that's a definite tackle.
Yeah, definitely. He's got your 34-inch arms there.
Yeah.
Delighted. I mean, you said it as well. Like, one of the things I had from was movement skills. He's a great athlete. He needs to add more bulk. He needs to get a bit more bigger to be an NFL tackle. He's got those long arms, and they're quick hands as well. He's got good motor. Was a 2023 started all 14 games at left tackle, only allowed 1 sack. Last year started all 14 games at left tackle, only allowed 1 sack. First team All Big Ten. Yeah, I mean, he's one of those, like, really talk about draft and stash. Draft him, stash for a year. He comes out, and you don't have to worry about tackle then for 10 years. He's very good player, like, interesting one.
Just to add to Shane's point about if you want to go back and watch a game, watch Penn State. Let's also not forget that game against Penn State was late in the season as well. So we're not talking about someone who's still trying to, shake off a bit of rust with Carter. Carter was probably coming on towards the sort of top end of what he was doing and really starting to push a lot of these players will push towards the end of the season because that's the kind of stuff that scouts are going to remember more often than not. But you look at his numbers, they're just incredible. Like, he gave up 9 total pressures last year. 4 of them were in the game against Ohio State towards the end of the season as they got knocked out of the college playoffs. So you take that away, he allowed 5 total pressures, 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and 1 hurry across the entirety of the regular season. I mean, that's some going, and we're not talking about playing against lower level talent here, are we? We're talking about someone who's going up against some of the better schools. Anything to add? Do we want to have a quick chat about Will Campbell? I mean, he's the enigma that's here. Kev, you've got him OT1. Aaron and Shane have both said guard. Like, what are we talking about here? Because Will Campbell, by all means, is the number one offensive line prospect, isn't he, across the board?
I mean, yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Mayo, talk to us about Campbell. Let's hear it from the expert.
So, yeah, the way people look at guards traditionally has changed, right? So it's not a knock to say this guy is a guard, because what you're getting here is one of those dominating interior offensive linemen, right? He plays at the game at a level, it's always said that the offensive linemen they are where the smart guys play. The defensive line are the guys that play with a little bit more aggression and a little bit more run Forrest run. So he shows everything you want to see in the tape. When he picks up stunts and blitzes, so well. His toughness, his aggression. Everything you want for that lineman. He'll probably be a captain at some point in the NFL, but he is just physically that those short arms means he's going to be. Why would you play a guy at a tackle and have a top 15 tackle in the league when you can have a top 3 guard in the league, right? It's so important to have that interior of your line sorted out. Left guard is as important, almost as important as left tackle, right? Because your left tackle is often playing on an island, right? Your left guard has to make sure the next guy in from the tackle rusher, or the guy that's stunting from the outside is coming in. So he's just going against the same high quality defender. Plus, he might have Dexter Lawrence on his inside to deal with as well, right? And double team join with the center, as well as a linebacker like a Micah Parsons coming down and blitzing. It's not an easy position to play guard. You put a guy like Will Campbell in, and you're that position sorted for the next 10 to 15 years.
Do you know what reminds me of a little bit? And I'm not saying he's as good because I don't think they're very similar coming out. Is Zach Martin out of Notre Dame? Like, Zach Martin Notre Dame was a top 10 player in that draft, left tackle for Notre Dame. He came in and they moved him to right guard, and then look at the career he's had. He's just retired recently, hasn't he? I mean, I was crying out for Zach Martin to be drafted as a Notre Dame fan that year instead of Odell Beckham. But I think I do sort of agree with everything you say, but the way I kind of look at it is like I'll play him at guard, I'll play him at tackle until it's obvious in the NFL that he can't play there. I mean, like in his 3 years at LSU, first year started all 13 games, freshman All-American, second team All-SEC. The next year started all 13 games, first team All-SEC. Last year played 12 games, first team All-SEC. Do you know what I mean? He's got really good movement. He's got really, like I said, really good awareness. He's actually stronger than he looks. But it's just one of those things where, like, you only give up, 2 sacks last season, 0 sacks the year before in the SEC. So it's one of those things where, like, I completely get what you're saying and it makes complete sense to me. But I want to see him at tackle until we can evaluate him and go, do you know what? Fine, okay, we'll move him into guard.
And I would have no problem with a team taking him with that draft plan. But do you take a guy that's maybe a tackle, Pro Bowl guard, or do you take Membu first? Like, so if you're that taking the first offensive lineman off the board, and you're going to get a guy that might be a starting tackle, probably definitely a Pro Bowl guard, or do you take a guy that could be a Pro Bowl tackle, and his floor is he's a average tackle, maybe on the right side rather than the left side if Membu doesn't pay off.
Well, I'll never get to make those type of decisions, unfortunately. I get to talk to you boys.
Only on the mock drafts in.
There's one player I'm going to ask Mayo on, because this is a player who I really want to include in my top 5, but I just couldn't based on what I've seen on tape, and that's Ariane Ursary. Have you seen anything on him at Minnesota? Is it Minnesota?
Yeah. Do you have him? Where do you have him? Do you have him at 7 or 6?
7 or 8. I have Wyatt Moylan.
Yeah, I've got him as a guard inside. I've got Ursary at 6.
Yeah, I just weren't keen on what I've seen on the tape.
Yeah, not a guy I watched too much tape on. Athlete guy, I think. You know, he's showing that kind of traits. He's got a good first step. His hands are explosive, but another a high waist guy.
He just moves so awkward for his height.
Yeah. But again, 6'6", right? It's so easy. Even if you are a longer arm guy, it's so easy to just bend and reach and those kind of things. And then, you know, I don't think he's got necessarily the footwork to deal with like those kind of guys that are going to cut back inside on him, and that's when you see him struggling. But again, he's got some of those athletic, for the size he is. His pass blocking is good. Impact
nasty in the run game, isn't he?
Yeah.
I love him in the run game.
So again, I think he's a guy that is a day 2 tackle. And again, another one of these guys that's a tackle. So I think in this draft, you'll see the tackles slightly overdrafted because the scarcity, both in the league. We saw all of the free agent tackles get tagged or snapped up to long-term deals before getting free agency. So some teams are going to be desperate for a tackle, not a tweener tackle, as I like to call them. And so they will overreach for some of these tackles. So, one of the big knocks on the Giants, I think you mentioned it. It's been ages since we've drafted a tackle. It's been ages since we've drafted linemen. I think someone showed a graph since of all teams taking tackles and interior linemen, and defensive linemen as well, who's taken the least in the thing. I think we were 31st in the league. We were considerably down the bottom left of this graph. So the average team in the league is taking many more linemen on our team. And I think, given how hard they are to achieve in free agency, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 2 or 3 offensive and defensive linemen going in our draft this year.
And also, Craig, just for you, yours 6'6", 340 pounds. Oh, he's a big boy.
Big boy. Big butt.
Yeah.
But just looking at offensive line, currently it's Andrew Thomas, John Runyon, JMS, Greg Van Roten, and Evan Neal, and Illuminor. Like, we've only got one player on a rookie contract on that line. That's farcical. Like, you need to balance. Like, I always look at it, right? And this might be a topic for off season when we're team building. But I kind of like the perfect. You'll never get it. But the perfect sort of situation is every starting position has one player in a rookie contract and one vet. So like a safety, you have one safety like Holland and one like Newbin. You have cornerback, one like Paulson Adebo, and then one that's a bit better than Banks. But you kind of get where I'm from. That's how you build a decent roster, in my opinion. But I mean, like that offensive line, we need to draft. We need to get better drafting offensive linemen.
Yeah, and another name I like, Wyatt Meelam out of West Virginia, a guy that's played at left tackle, but again probably kicks inside the guard. Strong run blocker, big power, man scheme. I prefer man scheme guys, but it really depends on what offense you're running. Again, struggles when he's left on an island in pass protection, but I think looks great inside. Older guy, 23 as well, so he's probably closer to a ceiling, but end of date, maybe that 99th overall pick, top of the 4th round guy. Anthony Belton's another one out of NC State, again another kind of power guy, limited in kinds of athleticism. Chaselin out of Connecticut, again another guy that's probably more of an athlete that you want to develop. He's not going to be a day 1 starter, but there are guys in day 3 that I think we should be adding, as well as maybe a 2nd round or top of the 3rd round lineman as well. Much to Shane's.
So it's interesting that you've then listed off those, because the next part, and I'm just aware that we're 122 in, so we won't take too long on this, but the next part is what we're calling our guys. And you can see whose guys they are in the bottom left there. So these are the players who are not top prospects, but what Kev and Shane call our guys. They are the players that they have a soft spot for, and they would like to see them drafted. For example, Shane, last year, is it wrong to say that one of your guys was Ben Sinnott?
Yeah.
He was one of your guys.
I think if mentioning that name, it's just like you bumped into an old friend and they're like, "Oh, you're still with such and such," and you're like, "Oh, forgot about that name."
So this time we're not going to do them one by one. We're just going to put them up on screen. So the boys have chosen one interior offensive lineman and one offensive tackle that they like. They have a little soft spot for. They'd like to see him do well. So, Shane, do you want to just give Kev a little bit of confirmation as to what we were talking about pre-pod?
Yeah, Kev was right. Kev knows. Offensive tackle Charles Grant out of William and Mary. I had to confirm for Craig earlier on that wasn't his parents' names. That was his name.
I thought he was homeschooled.
And then on the interior offensive line, I've gone for Connor Colby. It's a name that not many people kind of know about, but as anyone who's listened to this show previously in draft contents, there's certain schools I have soft spots for, and certain schools I'm absolutely not very interested in. And I don't mind Iowa offensive lineman. Connor Colby needs to improve in his his run blocking schemes, but he's a very good pass block. He's probably going to be kind of like a round 5 guy potentially. Whereas Charles Grant, he could very well be in that maybe back end of round 2, early round 3 potentially.
So before Kev does his, Steve put earlier, assuming Hudson goes at RT, could we see someone like Anthony Belton or Charles Grant to be a good option for left tackle depth further down the draft? Something about Albion fans and sticking together, I think it comes up there.
Though, out of my guys, it was Belton or Grant. And I just, I'm going to go Grant because he's like from a smaller school. And I just think he has the potential to be at least a very, very solid backup left tackle.
Kev, do you want to talk to us about Pierce and Monheim?
Yeah, Holland Pierce. Here we go, 6'8", 3'4", only gave up 1 sack, 5 hits, 15 hurries.
Whoa! 6'8".
6'8". He's what you call a big boy.
High tower, I think is the.
He is a big old boy. He started off at Fork Union Military Academy, believe it or not. And then he transferred to Rutgers, where he's a walk-on. He redshirted, get himself into football shape and stuff. He's just a big, powerful, mammoth man. He can get beat on the edge of speed, but I think he's developing. He's one of those players that when you watch him, he just stands out. And Rutgers as well. It's close to home. It's one of those players we're bringing for a local workout. He just really, really stands out. And I think like if you could, one of those like balls of clay type thing. He's quick for his size. He's got good hands. I just think like if you get him in the building, work on him a bit, I think there could be something there.
What about Jonah?
Jonah Monheim out of USC. He's one of those players like that you watch as a center. And I have him, as you probably know, on my center list. I have him 3rd center behind Jared Wilson and Gray Zabel. But he's just a really good athlete. He's very, very clever. He showed really well at the Senior Bowl as well, which was good. He's got powerful hands, good core strength. Like I said, he's one of those players that I think you can come in, and I think he could push GMS for a job if we draft him.
Aaron, familiar with any of these 4?
Yeah, so Holland's a guy I've looked at. Again, New Jersey boy. So yeah, great to he'll be in on a local visit, I'm sure. Guy that's improved year on year, walk on before getting a scholarship later in his kind of college time. The height, again, you always see it on tape. But they're that big, he's going to reach a little bit. That will be his biggest. That's his biggest Achilles heel against, particularly the speed rushers, because he'll go to lean, get off balance thingy. But again, if you can get a solid backup out of a guy like this, that and see where he goes over his career, great. Charles Grant, William Mary, again, another one of those guys that's small school, great tape. You worry about the competition. You worry about some of his. Measurables. Is he at his ceiling already? But a guy that's going to get a chance may hear his name on day 2. Again, proper tackle, so tackles are in demand, so may go slightly earlier than we expect.
Well, there we go. Shane can have a big sigh, big intake of breath. Offensive line is done. However, it's just the beginning of the top prospects. We've got plenty more to come. But that is a really good start to proceedings. And like Shane said, we're starting in an unsexy position. But if there's anybody who knows the value of offensive line, it's Giants fans, because it hasn't been great. However, I will push against the narrative that we are still a poor offensive line. I think we are a middle-of-the-road offensive line now, a lot better than we have been. Unfortunately, that is all the time we've got this week. However, we will be back on Tuesday with a pre-recorded episode looking at linebackers. So if you have any questions on linebackers, make sure you get those in prior to us recording that. And then we will be live again next Thursday as we continue through looking at defensive interior players and edge. Shane, Kev, anything to add before we go?
No, it's just, it's good getting these getting started on these top fives and kind of really getting into the draft content now and the college players, and hopefully we'll be mentioning names of players in our top fives or even our guys that we very well might see in a Giants jersey later on in the year. Thanks to Aaron for jumping on and putting these inputs, been like really interesting and great to listen to. So much appreciated for that, mate.
Yeah, cheers. Just really glad to get back on, boys. Start the top 5 prospects. Draft season is like weeks away, really. And again, just shout out to Mayo for coming on. I thought having him on this week was perfect. He just adds that little bit extra to it. A little bit of seasoning, that little condiment to it. So absolutely, lovely. So cheers for coming on, but can't wait to get back on again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'll return to the comments and put my spice in there instead.
It has been noticeably quieter without you in there and with you on the pod, but a worthy sacrifice to have you on for these last 2 episodes. And yeah, when we get back into the season or into the preseason, no doubt we'll have you back on. Especially if we end up picking up somebody in the draft, we'll be doing some much deeper dives than we have done. So we'll get you back on then. As always, remember to like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already, hit the bell to be notified of when we go live, just in case it is at a random time or a random date. Things do change in the off season, and sometimes it can't be helped. And if you aren't already, follow us at the socials in the description down below. My thanks go to Kev, Shane, and Aaron for joining me tonight. For all of you watching and listening, we are signing off until next time. Let's go, Giants.